Welcome to Program Module BSCM 2206 Health and Safety in Supply Chain, Module 4.3 Risk Management Framework, Safe System of Work. House rules. Attendance list, please complete that. Mobile phone on silent mode, please pay attention. Emergencies and convenience, as I have been instructed earlier, if you have any emergency requirement to step out, please do so. Questions, this is where I am really unhappy about. The amount of questions what I get is very low and far below the expected level. So please pay attention and please be mindful to ask questions as appropriate. This is the subject introduction, the total training program modules. We have completed 4.2 last week. Now we are in 4.3 Safe System of Work. Now along with this one we will be completing emergency response planning. Why? First we are doing the safe system of work. If that fails, we have to know how to handle the emergency situations. Just a recap of what is the HSE policy statement says. In our statement of intent, we have to identify the hazards, then commitment to risk assessment and emergency procedures. That is what we are doing in this module. In our arrangements, health and safety rules and procedures for evaluating and managing risk arising from workplace hazardous substances, activities, fire, etc. So we are in the process of identifying the hazards and bringing in control measures and then developing safe systems of work for our workers to work. Then also it says very specific arrangements, asset integrity management, procedures and work instructions, emergency response planning. These are the key things for us to ensure that our business will continue in a safe manner. Definitions. Hazard. Something with the potential to cause harm. Anything that can get released, that can come onto us or that can impact on us, maybe temperature, anything that has the potential to cause harm is a hazard. Then the risk. Potential consequence of hazard into the frequency. How much of damage it could be done and at which frequency or what the probability is. Then the threat. Threat is what releases or activates the hazard. As an example, a fan is hanging above us to its hook. If there's any corrosion, if there's any fatigue, if there's any structural failure, this fan will crash. Whatever that releases the fan from its hook are threats. So maybe corrosion, maybe fatigue, maybe wear and tear, whatever it is. All those things are threat. Then controls. Controls to maintain of threats, which means we are having controls to ensure there's no corrosion in the ceiling fan hook. There's no fatigue, it has been properly maintained. We are doing some maintenance and inspection to see the fan is being mounted properly onto the bar and that bar is strong enough to hold it. So those are the controls. Then the event. What will happen if the hazard been released? If the fan come crashing onto the ground, what can happen? It can crash onto someone's head. It can crash innocently onto the ground. It can crash onto any other asset or object and cause damage to that one. So whatever the thing that happens is the first event is the crashing of the fan onto the ground. Then recovery measures to minimize the damage and get it back into original shape. Now in the risk management framework, we studied different levels. First level is business level. Then comes operational level, then comes flow level. I hope you can remember this. During the business level, what we did, we try to understand the business, then we clarify and communicate the business objectives, what we are going to do, then we identify the risk, then we assess the risk and we responded to the risk. So this is what we did at business level. So at business level, we make decisions and decide sometimes to not to take the risk or to transfer the risk, treat the risk or take the risk. Then we come to operational level. At the operational level, we are managing the risk using the risk assessment metrics. Risk assessment metrics has two main components, consequence and the likelihood. In the consequence, when it comes to people, you can see onto the left extreme, the severity rating is there. Based on that, you can categorize how bad the severity is. But when it comes to environment, reputation and assets, you have to put it into a virtual scale and assess whether you can grade it under severity 0, severity 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 based on the definitions given here. Then the risk rating. Risk ratings are having three main categories: red, high risk, yellow, medium risk and blue, low risk. And how to categorize the risk? The risk rating is been given. First, the consequence category. P for people, E for environment, R for reputation, A for assets. So when it says P3E, it is under people. 3 is a major injury. E is has happened more than once per year in the location. Risk E4D, environment 4, that is environmental major effect. 4 is major. D is has happened at the location more than once per year in the organization. Let's take another example. A3D. A stands for asset, 3 for moderate damage, D for has happened at the location or more than once per year in the organization. Now you all might be a little bit confused about what is this location and what is this organization. Now there are some businesses where they have one office and many branches. Say as an example, a big company like MAS, Haley's, Brandix, then Elephant House, they have so many branches all over. So if you take the entire business, we call that the organization. Then the location is wherever their factories are. As an example, Ceylon Biscuits Limited, they have a facility at Ranala, they have a facility at Homagama, and various other places. Then Brandix, they have their head office in Colombo, but they have nearly 25 branches all over the country. So all those individual locations, Ratnapura, Kahavatta, Agalavatta, Mirigama, all those things are locations. The Brandix is the organization. Let's move to the next level, ALAP. Remember, ALAP is as low as reasonably practicable, which means you have to manage the risk at ALAP level. You can't zero the risk unless you remove the hazard. So you can see here in the risk assessment matrix colors, blue color, manage for continuous improvement. So there's no much of a worry. You can continue it. Then medium risk, okay, you are managing it as low as reasonably practicable level, but you have to have still incorporate risk reduction measures. You have to try and reduce the risk even further. If there's any high risk activities, definitely it is intolerable. Then what you're supposed to do, you do the risk assessment process again and see how and what you can do to minimize the effects of the hazard. So generally the acceptance criteria is, as we discussed, it has to be either medium or low. But unfortunately, in some businesses, you will still end up with some high risk activities. So if you're having a high risk activity, you have to have at least 3 barriers. Let's talk about what these barriers in a little while. And you have to have at least 3 recovery measures if you are continuing with high risk activities. Then for medium risk, you have to have again at least 3 barriers and at least 2 recovery measures. For low risk, 1 barrier plus competency and at least 1 recovery measure. So this is the acceptance criteria in international level. If you are continuing with any business, any activity at high risk, you have to have at least 3 barriers and 3 recovery measures. If it is medium, 2 barriers and 2 recovery measures. Now we are going to go a little bit deeper into the subject to understand what these hazard threats and barriers are. Event. We discussed about this one. Event is the first thing that is happening no sooner the control is been lost. Now here you can see a pipeline which is under pressure. It's storing chemical. When I say storing, even if it is been transported from A to B through the pipeline, maybe the pipeline is 6 kilometers long, but it's been considered as a storage. Why? The chemical is inside that pipeline for that moment. So in this line, hazard is the chemical. How can this chemical come out? Maybe due to excessive pressure, because excessive pressure now is a threat. If that threat gets activated, it can release the hazard to the outside. So the event is actually the chemical release. Then what are the barriers? Let's understand it like this. So there is a chemical storage, which is the hazard, and the hazard gets released. That is the event. How this chemical came out? Because of the excessive pressure. That is a threat. Now how can we ensure that these chemicals will not get released due to excessive pressure? If we can control this threat, we can achieve safety. But of course, that is not the only reason. There may be another reason. corrosion. So the corrosion also can cause problems. Corrosion can deteriorate the strength of the structure and still release chemical outside. So what is supposed to do? You put 3 barriers sometimes. Why these barriers are? Now imagine if the excessive pressure is a threat, you install a pressure relief valve. So what does the pressure relief valve do? If any excessive pressure builds up, it leaks out the excessive pressure outside. So there's no explosions. Same with the corrosion. Maintenance. You can have a maintenance plan to ensure that you will check for the corrosions and treat them. Then non-corrosive material. If the vessel or the pipe is been constructed with a non-corrosive material, it will not get corroded. Now see different levels of controls that have been installed here. First one is the non-corrosive material. You eliminate the risk of corrosion. Then the maintenance is a procedural thing. Someone has to go there and do the maintenance. Pressure relief valve. It's an engineering control. It's an engineering device acting independently without anybody's assistance to ensure that the excessive pressure is not being built up inside the pressure storage. Barriers. When you're selecting your barriers, you have to select them in an order of priority. First one is the elimination. Now the elimination is you eliminate the risk of leakage completely. How you can do it? Check. Now as an example, if you change the material of the vessel or the pipeline from normal mild steel to stainless steel, you eliminate the threat of corrosion completely. So remember here we are in the barriers, we are not eliminating the hazard. When it comes to barriers, we are trying to eliminate threats. So how could we eliminate the threat of corrosion? You eliminate the threat of corrosion due to change of material. Then substitution. What is substitution? You try and see whether you can substitute a system from what we have right now so that the threat can be managed very easily. In fact, a system is, now say as an example, within the pressure vessel, when the pressure goes up, if someone has to stay there and start manipulating the system to bring down the pressure. But instead of doing that, you can have an automatic pressure relief valve. When the pressure relief valve is there, you substitute it with the engineering control so that the system will be maintained without any problem. You can substitute a person with a better knowledge than the one operating now to minimize the risk. So that is how you manage barriers. Then comes procedural and administrative measures. The maintenance of the pressure vessel. The maintenance is something what you're supposed to do physically. Someone has to go there and do it, which is a procedure. Every 1 month, every 6 months, or every 1 year, someone has to do the maintenance. Then also other administrative measures, checking the limit of the content. When you are driving vehicles, you say don't exceed the speed limit. All those things are administrative measures. Then finally comes personal protective measures. Remember, when it comes to personal protective measures, there are 2 types, preventive and reactive. Now these preventive measures are when someone is using a welding goggle, electric welding, it is a preventive personal protective measure. Why preventive? Even before we start the job, we know that there is a hazardous situation which we have to manage. So we use the welding goggle as a preventive measure. What is reactive? You are wearing a helmet. Why you are wearing the helmet? At an unknown time, something can drop from a height. To reduce the injuries, you are using a helmet. So the purpose of the helmet is only when something goes wrong, which is reactive. But the purpose of the welding goggle is throughout. Even before you start the job, you know you have to use it, and it is going to give you the support from the time you start using it, not only when system goes out of control. Barrier is a protective measure put in place to prevent threats from releasing the hazard. So always the barrier keeps the threats away from the hazard. Elimination. Some examples: process solutions, reduction in material inventory, recycling. What is process solution? Now, in the previous example of the chemical storage, you start using a different kind of a chemical in a different manner. So that's a process solution. If you are talking about transport industry, we talk about vehicle movements. If you want to eliminate the hazard, you can stop traveling in a particular route at a particular time. That is a process solution. Reduction in material inventory. If the problem is about a fire, leakage, environmental pollution. You can minimize the risk by reducing the amount of hazardous material you have in your inventory. Then recycling. What is recycling? If you are releasing a hazardous material outside to the environment, without doing that, you can start recycling. Then the amount of hazardous material goes to the environment is being eliminated. Then comes substitution. What is substitution? You are using alternate resources. Now, as an example, even for electricity. Now, here in Sri Lanka, we have some options. We have coal power plants, we have hydropower plants, and we have diesel power plants. So when you consider these things, you can see if you are going to use coal power now, the coal, we know that it produces a lot of emissions, and therefore the alternate should be, the first alternate may be hydro. But hydro is not available. Then what? Next alternate is the diesel power. So that is what the alternates means. Engineering measures. Now engineering measures are monitoring measures, ventilation, filtration, sounding alarms, all those things are engineering measures. Then when you look at a grinding wheel, you can see there's a grinding wheel and a guard. Why? If your hand gets closer, your hand can get injured. Then anti-corrosion coatings. Now in the previous example, we talk about corrosion. The corrosion can reduce the strength of the tank shell and leak the chemicals out. But if you're having anti-corrosive coating, maybe it is going to take a lot of time for that one. Then separation. What is separation? You separate the hazard from other people. You keep hazardous material away from the public. You give a lot of time for things to settle down. Now, if the water is hot, you can't drink it right now. You can't bathe. You have to give a little bit of time for it to cool down. So these are some of the examples of engineering measures. Then we are coming to administration measures, warning signs, trainings, drills, then having procedures, ergonomics, health surveillances, telling people how to do, what not to do. All those things are procedural measures. Now, safe system of work also a procedural measure. Now in the safe system of work case, this is designed to prevent incidents or events from happening. This contains what work to be done, equipment and tools and systems to be used, raw materials to be used, preventive measures to be followed, and emergency measures. Now these are the key things of safe system of work. Now generally, essentially, this is a system for dealing with hazards and controlling the risk they pose in the workplace. Why? We know if there is a hazard, it has a risk of hurting someone or damaging some equipment or damaging our reputation or environment. Therefore, we should know how to manage or how to work with it safely. So that system is known as safe system of work. So why we are having a safe system of work? We can't eliminate all the hazards. If you have to drive from Colombo to Kandy, the hazards of other moving objects in the road will be there. So you can't remove all the other hazards. So you should know how to manage. So therefore, we have to take control measures and ensure all the hazards are under control, so the risk is as low as reasonably practicable. What is safe system of work level 1? The first one is standard work procedure. Standard work procedures are in general for low risk activities. The sequence of this one is developed in consultation of workers. Why? This is a low risk activity, it belongs to the ground floor level. So if you are going to do any change, if you are going to implement any new standard or requirements, you have to have the consultation of workers for that one. Then supervisors are responsible to manage the safe work procedures. It is the supervisor who deal with the workers and get the feedback from the workers on the procedures and the working conditions. So therefore, supervisors are the one who can do any adjustments and give the feedback also. I have sent you some examples. Please open that document and go through that one, and you will see it's a very simple document and very easy to follow, and the supervisors and workers can manage it very clearly. I am giving you an assignment here, very simple assignment to be completed after the break. Develop a simple safe work procedure. The time given is 5 minutes. How to do this? identify any low risk activity of your own hemp, and please develop the safe work procedure, because this is how you are going to manage your low risk activities in your business. Then you are coming to the second tier of safe work system. This is for slightly different condition. The standard operation procedures, SOPs. The standard operation procedures are for routine medium risk activities. Earlier it is for low risk activities. This one is for routine medium risk activities. Again, the procedures are developed in consultation of workers, and supervisors are responsible to manage the SOPs. I have sent you a couple of examples of SOPs. Please open them. Now you will be able to compare this with the safe work procedure and see what is the difference between the standard operation procedure and the safe work procedure. Safe work procedure definitely is having little bit more content than the other one. Why? The safe work procedure is for low risk and the safe operation procedure is for medium risk. I am giving you another assignment, again a very small one. Develop a simple SOP, time given is 5 minutes. You are having 3 examples with you. Compare these examples and see how well you can get your information into these documents and develop your own ones. This is required for you to be a competent person in HSE. Then comes to the third tier. The third tier is job hazard analysis. Job hazard analysis is for a specific task where hazards are potentially present with medium risk or high risk. It may be a routine task with potential of serious incidents, or routine task with a history of incidents, routine task carried out under unusual circumstances. Before going any further, I will clarify these 3 for you now. Routine task with potential for serious incidents. Nothing has happened yet, but you doubt that something can go wrong because it is a hazardous or potentially hazardous task that you are performing. Then the routine task with history of incidents. Now these ones you have already experienced either within your organization or in the industry. You know very well that when you are going to do this, something could go wrong. Then the third one is routine task carried out under unusual circumstances. You know your controls under usual circumstances, but unusual circumstances may not be with you. Therefore, you have to conduct a JHA, job hazard analysis, even though the operation is routine, since it is been conducted under unusual circumstances. Then comes non-routine task. Non-routine is the things what you have not assessed earlier. Anything that you have not assessed earlier in your hemp are non-routine task. So if you happen to do any non-routine task, please do a JHA for that. In general, JHA has been completed by an HSE professional and the line manager is responsible for implementing that. Now when you conduct the JHA, if you identify the risk as high, a permit to work is required to be completed. What is permit to work? The permit to work is the higher level of control for any activity that is being performed within your organization. Applicable to situations where if things are risk known to be high, not properly planned or coordinated, continue of one task would dangerously impact on another. Now let me clarify these ones. Risk of the activity is high. You conduct the JHA and you identify the risk is high. Yes, then you have to do a permit to work. Then not properly planned and coordinated. Why you are not doing any planned activity? Now sometimes events takes place within organizations where you can't plan much. As an example, the electricity board is coming into our organization to do some repairs of a high tension line. Now electricity board is not under our control. It is our premises. The electricity line is going through that. So then what we are supposed to do is we have to prepare a permit to work and inform the electricity board to abide by our controls measures as much as possible. And also we have to be careful that something uncontrollable is happening in our area. So we have to be aware of that one. Then continuation of one task that would impact dangerously on another. Say we are doing a lifting activity. Our premises is small, but we are lifting the load for maybe about 20 to 30 meters high. We are using a crane. If the crane topples or if the load swings, it may go and crash onto other buildings and structures. Then we have to have a permit to work in place before we start our work. In general, the permit to work is been developed and approved by special license holders. Everyone can't do that because the risk involved is very high. Safe system of work will help you to recognize and manage hazards at the planning stage itself. So you can be very sure that nothing could go wrong or nothing much could go wrong in your day-to-day activities. Make HSE planning a part of every task. You can remember we discussed about standard operating procedures, standard work practices, job hazard analysis. So at every level, every task, there is something you can do about it. Identify what controls are going to be needed for hazards being faced. Managing hazard is a question of culture, which means if your mindset is good, if you are thinking about safety, if your culture is to be safe, then definitely managing the hazard is going to be very, very easy. If there's any doubt about the safety, what you're going to do, please stop the work. There's no any rule to say continue the work even if you know that it is unsafe. All the rule says stop work if it is not safe to do so. Right, now take a break. It is the time for you to refresh yourself, and I have given you 2 assignments, but don't try to spend a lot of time on these assignments. Maybe within about 5 to 10 minutes time you should be able to complete it. So your break time is 15 minutes, 10 minutes for the assignment. Come back in 25 minutes from now. Thank you.